Coach, hey, thanks for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. You know, I love the marketplace ideas in anti-social media called Twitter. And the fact that we connected over a hat of the day just speaks to the volumes of the power and the reach of SimpleCoach on that platform. So appreciate you chiming in with your love of my Trine Thunder hat and you having the same one and us being able to connect today.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't wear it. I just got in the car this morning and got to campus and I was like, I knew I forgot something. But that's Friday in the summer for you.
Oh, absolutely. I forget my head sometimes in the morning, so don't feel so bad. Hey, so just to jump right into this, I think I got this right. Head coach for 4 years at Trine,
Yep.
4 or 5th. You're going into your 5th, or whatever the case. But maybe you could just talk about what's your experience been like, and how did you end up in that chair that you're sitting?
Yeah, it's been a great experience so far. Uh, Previously, I was coaching at a junior college in Buffalo, New York, which is where I'm from. Erie Community College, shout out Cats. And we spent some time turning a program around there. We went from winning 0 games the year before I got there and playing in the national championship in my 3rd year there. And so I was kind of recruited a little bit to come out here to Trine and was really open to the idea of working with players for 4 years instead of just 2 and then shipping them off so somebody else could reap the benefits of our development. And I saw a place that I thought all the infrastructure was in place for us to build a really successful women's soccer program. I mean, the facilities, the academic standards, the academic scholarship offerings. I just felt like everything was in place to really be able to build the program into what we've done so far. And we're really excited about the work we've done. I think we're still growing and we're still climbing, and we haven't really peaked to where we're going to be in the next couple of years. But it's just been great. It's just been great. The school is a wonderful place. Everybody's happy here. Like, it's just good vibes all day. And so it's a great place to be.
Are you not? You don't like to work in a place where everyone's miserable, kind of like the experience I had for many years working in the city.
No, that's not it.
What you mentioned this just about your experience at Erie. Were you brought to Trine as part of, like, I don't want to say this in a bad way, like, was there a turnaround that they were looking to?
I think so. I mean, it's no secret. Like, everything's on the internet nowadays, right? You can look back at our team's history, and the program struggled for a long time. And the conversations that I was having prior to me accepting the position were conversations that, we want our women's soccer program to match the success of our other women's athletic program. I mean, we've got a softball team runner-up in the national championship last year. A women's basketball team in the Final Four last year. So the goal was to be able to, raise the standards for our women's soccer team, and so far we've done it.
I will say, like, if you were recruiting me, I would just look at your field, and I think I would have been like, I'm signing. Where do you need me to play?
Well, we've got a golf course on campus, so we know how to take care of some grass around here.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful, right? Weaver Soccer Field. I mean, the picture. Oh my gosh, I mean that is stunning. Anyhow, I got all geeky about those things, like look at
Oh,
that,
I
a
mean,
natural grass field,
are
like
you a
oh.
soccer nerd if you don't, feel that way about a
Yeah, yeah,
basketball?
that's true. That is a good. I'm going to start asking. Do you get goosebumps when you look at a really nice soccer field? Hey, I've never been able to ask this, so now I will. I mean, do you see a difference between players that at, I'll just say, successful junior college level versus what you see at the division, because you're at the Division 3 level? Do you think there is a gap, like I don't want to say gap, but maybe yeah, that like a talent gap or
Um, less than what you would think. I think at the junior college level, what I say is everybody chooses to go to a school, a university for different reasons,
mm-hmm.
and sometimes some of the most talented players are at a junior college for some
Mm-hmm.
specific reasons. They might not know what they want to study. They might be in a scenario where it's best for them financially. Heck, Division 1 junior college has national team players on
Yeah.
those teams. So I think that there's a misconception of the junior college player. I mean, we've brought junior college players here to Trine to help
Uh-huh.
us in this build. Uh, there's I think the drop off kind of comes similar to any team towards um, maybe the bottom half of the
Mm-hmm.
roster
Yeah, yeah,
might
I
not
could see
be
that.
level,
Yeah.
um, but the top half of JUCO rosters are
Mm-hmm.
there's some unbelievable talent there.
Yeah. It's interesting because there was a goalkeeper slightly, I'll say, younger than me. Um, I don't know if the name rings. Bill Andrecki. He used to play Rochester Rhinos, and
Yeah,
he started out at Mercer County Community College, which at the time was one of the top junior colleges in the country, and then ended up going to Rutgers. And that team, I know that team that he was on, and then the years before, I mean, all of those guys ended up landing at just remarkable programs in their own right. And that junior college was just the path, right? Like it
yeah.
wasn't a
Billy coached
bad
me.
thing. What's that?
Billy coached me in my first
Yeah.
year with
Oh,
the
he
Rochester
did.
Answers. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Wow. Who knew? Who knew? It's like
It's funny. Yeah,
this is
small
bizarre.
world.
Yeah, yeah. Small world. So anyhow, that's the guy I always think to. Like that, he didn't, and he was a great goalkeeper.
Oh yeah,
Didn't start with all the glory. He just started at Mercer County Community College. Like so. Okay, could you just talk a little bit about the MIAA, the Michigan Intercollegiate Athletic Conference? I do know some of the teams there, Calvin, Hope, Adrian, I mean, are fantastic programs in their own right. So maybe you could just talk about a competitiveness, where you see it
yeah.
yeah.
There's no easy games. That's for
Mm-hmm.
certain. It's I think a little bit underrated as a conference in terms of women's soccer. Um, you know, you have like the name recognition as you mentioned with
Mm-hmm.
Calvin and Hope, and they've been there for a while. But uh, you know, our conference tournament, 6 teams get in the tournament, and typically any of those six on any given day can win the
Yeah.
entire conference tournament. Um, talent everywhere. Michigan is littered with youth soccer
Mm-hmm.
talent, and so just right in the backyard for a lot of those schools is a lot of great soccer, and so as you look across the conference, I think if if you're one of the top teams in our conference, you've got to be in the conversation for being ranked. And if you're winning our conference, like I felt Calvin last year should have been in the conversation for being a
Mm-hmm.
potential national champion. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I think I think that there's a real strength in women's soccer that if you look across some of the other sports, I mean, women's basketball, for example, Hope and Trine played in
Hope.
Final
Yeah.
Four, and
Yeah.
so the level of competition within the conference itself is is fantastic, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll go to bat for the MIAA,
Mm-hmm.
until I run out of words to say. But um, it's just a really competitive conference,
Mm-hmm.
and there might be one team each year that kind of surprises people. We were that
Mm-hmm.
team a year ago,
Yeah.
and so we're just as a program wanting to establish ourselves and keep ourselves in that conversation with
Mm-hmm.
the Calvins, the Hopes, the Adrians that you mentioned. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm hopeful that our name rings a bell the same way
Yeah.
as we look ahead to 23 and beyond.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm gonna just say again, right words, wrong words. That you came there to rebuild, reconstruct, however you want to call it, in the appropriate way. I just don't have the words. That what? How big of a deal for you was it to establish, or is it still a work in progress, a team culture that sets you on the path where it sounds like you want to get to, right?
Yeah, culture is a huge thing for us. I think when we started this turnaround, the the first part for us was just kind of evaluating where we were as a group. And so that first year, 2019, was us kind of feeling things out, and we established some core values and some things of that nature that we talk about here as a program. And then 2020, we got hit with COVID, and so
Yeah.
that made things tough because social distancing and not being able to be a group. I mean, when we started the year, we were in different small little pods. So some of our freshmen hadn't even met other teammates until
Oh my
a
gosh.
month into
Yeah.
school. Uh, so when we took a step back, you know, and realized we needed to spend a good majority of our time on the off the field stuff versus the on the field stuff, I think that really set us up for a successful 2021 season. Um, establishing some of those core values really within the group, um, establishing that culture. The key thing for our culture is positive communication.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's something that I harp on as a coach. And when we started changing the way our players communicated, they found a sense of care for one another. I feel, and I think that's what's crept onto the field really. Uh, I think at this level, when you're playing the level of competition that we're playing, there's a really fine line between a really good team and a great team, and everybody has good players. We just talked about all the talent in our conference
Mm-hmm.
alone. The team that's going to go and pick each other up and play for one another, so to speak, in the 89th minute of a 0-0 game in a cold, rainy October Michigan evening. That's the team that I think is gonna separate themselves
Yeah.
between that level of good and great. I say to our girls when I talk about communication in preseason, no one steps on the soccer field trying to make a mistake. Like none of our girls are like, man, I'm just gonna let this ball roll under my foot out of bounds,
Yeah.
or sitting in the box and like, what would be great is if I just skied this over the crossbar real quick. So there's no reason to get on it. Like pick each other up, you know,
Yeah.
and let me be the bad guy if there needs to be a bad guy. Let
Yeah.
our coaches correct. You guys pick each other up and support each other, and I think that's been key to some of the success that we've had. But
Yeah.
we really put an emphasis, I would say, from probably post 2019 season through today, still really focusing a lot on establishing that culture. of who we want to be as a team, what we want our identity to be on and off the field, and that's helped carry us to some of the success that we're having.
Yeah. I always tell my simple players, my sons, that y- if things don't go right during a game, and you have to deal with somebody barking at you because you didn't do something right, you learn to hate the game, right? Because there's no positive, there's no learning, you're just
Yeah,
down, right? You're down from the mistake, and then you're down because you're getting piled on,
yeah,
and
yeah. It's
that doesn't get you anywhere. Doesn't get you anywhere.
right.
I'm curious because just for folks, you guys aren't in Michigan. You're in Indiana, just
Yeah,
south of the Michigan-Indiana border.
yeah.
But where do you find your recruiting from? Is it sort of regional, or you have a national footprint?
I think we're a little bit of both. I think
Mm-hmm.
we try to focus more regionally a little bit now. When we
Mm-hmm.
first arrived as a staff, we wanted to cast a wide net.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have great relationships with some of the local clubs or the nearby
Mm-hmm.
clubs regionally because it wasn't a place where
Priority,
coaches
yeah,
wanted to send their best
yeah.
players. So we cast a wide net. I think right now we've got um, 14 different states accounted
Oh
for on the
wow,
roster, and
wow.
we've recruited some kids from Western New York. Me having a little bit of ties there. Um, we've recruited and really expanded our pool, but we've had a lot of success in Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, um, more regionally now. I think now we're more of a regional name that
Mm-hmm.
sounds familiar in clubs, and we work really hard as a staff. I mean, you're gonna see a Trine logo on the sidelines of any showcase that's out this way in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the national ones. We've got coaches going to high school games because Michigan plays in the spring now, and that's just a place where we feel we can be
Mm-hmm.
seen where some others won't be.
Mm-hmm.
So we work really hard and we've cast a really wide net. Uh,
You have, yeah.
but I think most of our recruiting now is done more on a regional level. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not shutting any doors. We're picking up the phone and calling everybody.
All right, so by the way, for you in particular, that's all that matters. But anyone who's watching, when I'm looking up, I have screens all around, so I got a lot of stuff going on. So I'm not listening to you. I'm actually looking at your roster right now.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that pops out is I have to ask you, what is it about El Paso, Texas?
They got some good players there, man, and
Yeah,
and nobody's looking.
really? Oh, okay,
We have a connection there through
yeah. Uh
our men's coach is
huh. Uh huh.
is a friend with one of the area boys soccer
Uh
um,
huh.
connoisseurs, so to speak,
Yeah.
and he uh, he had a daughter who was looking to go to play in college, and so we recruited her and brought a couple of friends with her.
Nice. Yeah, you are kind of all over. Like I said, I joke about El Paso, but there's four, three. I don't know what the count is, but yeah, the
Yeah, we have three girls from the
Arizona.
area. Yeah,
Yeah, Arizona. I mean, yeah, definitely the Ohio. You see the Ohio, Michigan connection,
yeah,
and some New York. But anyhow, I always look at that stuff. It's really interesting to me. Again, because I think they're really good teams. I'll just call them the elites. The elite schools tend to have this broader net of where they're getting players from, and I would throw in international players as well. And I almost like another state. Like
yeah,
they're not just focused in on. And I'm not saying if you just recruited Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio, you could do very, very well. And I go to Christopher Newport. The majority of their roster ends up being from Virginia, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like you're in a terrible soccer area.
No, no, not
But
at all.
but I do notice like teams that get noticed, teams that do well. Maybe it's a push pull thing. Like, hey, we're pushing to go find players, but I also think it's players get attracted to good programs, and so it doesn't matter where they are. And I think it's more common that kids are okay with going farther away. Back in my day, it was almost unheard of. Not unheard of, but it was a lot more difficult, right? So,
Yeah, it's the age of technology where you can connect with,
yeah,
mom and dad on a FaceTime. I think
yeah,
helps with some of that
yeah,
homesickness, and being part of a team too is a big
yeah,
factor.
yeah,
You move in as a freshman and you automatically have a group of friends that
yeah,
are there, doing the
yeah,
same thing, who also miss home
yeah,
and things
yeah,
like that. So
yeah,
it's definitely changed a little bit
yeah,
with just the accessibility of
yeah,
communication now.
yeah, yeah. That's true. You're not as far away as you were, when we were when I was on horseback and Conestoga wagons coming out west. Hey, I'll just throw this out there. What's your overall assessment of your past season?
Um, we had another good season. I think we grew was the main thing. Um, when I look back at 2022, we were expecting to be back in the national tournament. That was our goal from the onset, and we were pretty young again. I think the majority of our minutes were sophomores and freshmen,
Wow.
which was the second year in a row. So
Wow.
we really got a lot of experience this season on a really tough schedule, uh, and we loaded our schedule up again for 2023. But I think if there's one thing, you know, we got a little bit unlucky with injuries, and that's not
Mm-hmm.
that's not to make an excuse, um, you know, but no one wants to face Calvin at their place in a conference final down
When
three
you're hurting.
three starters. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no.
that's
Are you
not a
kidding me?
recipe for a lot of
No,
success.
no.
Uh,
No, that's
uh,
like,
but that's
yeah,
not to
that's,
say our players who stepped up and filled those roles
no.
didn't do a great job for us. I
Yeah.
mean, uh, we lost two one-goal games to the number six ranked team in the country
In the
almost
country,
every
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Um,
They are good. Like,
yeah.
they are. They're
Oh
fun
yeah.
to watch, too. Just so energetic.
Yeah. And so that was a bummer for sure. But I think me personally as a coach, I think I got away from some things that I did in training and some things that we did in 2021 to really help our team grow. And I want to get back to some of that stuff that we did, in that season that I might have gotten away from because I felt maybe we were a little bit more ready. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when in reality we were still pretty young, and we should have really stuck with some of the things that we did in 2021, some of the concepts that we were working on,
Mm-hmm.
some of the defensive principles. Uh, and I think we took a little bit more risks at time for me, um, which I want to take. We want to play on the front foot. We want to play an aggressive, attacking style of football. Um, but I'm looking forward to being more of a simple coach in 2023, because I think we have a
Right.
really talented group. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
be more experienced, and I want to give them the keys to the car and just be a
Yeah.
passenger. Let them
Yeah.
drive. Um, and 2023, will be a year where our coaching staff has recruited 4 full cycles now,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're really excited to put our team, so to speak, on the
Yeah.
field, this
Yeah.
coming year. But we had a lot of success. I'm not going to take away the last 2 years as a program. They've been
Mm-hmm.
the best 2 years in program history. Um, but as a whole, looking back to 2022, we grew for sure. We pulled some players along. Um, we had some freshmen go through what I like to call a little bit of like some sophomore slumps where um, they were really successful, and then things got hard. People figured out who we were and who they were,
Yeah.
and so some of that adversity that we faced this year, being the chased, being the hunted, not the hunters,
Yeah.
um, was good for us. That was really good for us, and we're going to take that into 2023 and that experience, moving forward, and hopefully it sets us up for a lot of success this fall.
Psychologically, that's a big hurdle. I hate to say it, right? Like it's all it's all fun to be the hunter, but that requires a certain mentality, style,
Yeah,
a
I
little
like to
bit
say
of
it's harder to stay at the top when you've made the climb.
yeah,
Like the climb
yeah,
it's hard, but that's the
hard,
easy
yeah,
part. It's
yeah.
staying at the top of the
Staying on
mountain.
top, yeah,
Is,
is very because now everybody's like, oh yeah, let's take them down a notch,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah,
um, just for the record, you were ended up second in the conference,
yeah,
and then you lost in the final, in the tournament final to Calvin.
yeah.
You went 11-4-3. I'm just curious, knowing. I mean, that's a successful season, if, just from my standpoint. Was there any point in the season where you're like, man, this team has legs, and I think we're gonna have another good year?
Yeah, you know, I think right from preseason when we got in, we were excited as a coaching staff. That's for
Mm-hmm.
sure, and we we played a really difficult non-conference schedule on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
We want our SOS to be right up there, and with that, I think I think the entire year the expectations stayed the same. I think when
Mm-hmm.
we got most excited was probably looking at the conference semifinal. That was our program's first win against Hope, and
Mm-hmm.
we had a game that night. We showed up and played,
I just
and so
noticed that.
going into the final, I think we were excited, um, but it had like we said, we were getting pulled one way with, hey man, we're dealing with some injuries,
Yeah.
but seeing some of those players like really step up against Hope, um, we were confident going into the conference final. Um, I won't say that we were like confident, like man, we're gonna win this game no matter what. Like one of our pieces of our culture is being humble,
Yeah.
and knowing who
Wow.
your opponent is. Um, so the early part, I think when we went down to center and took a 1-0 lead there, um, I think when we walked away from that game, knowing, hey, we put together a really good 45 minutes. If we
Mm-hmm.
can put that together for 90, you know, we're gonna have legs this year.
Mm-hmm. I'm okay. So I did the reason for this hat is I did a video, one of my first, and I just called it my new favorite team, and I was actually talking about the Trine men's team, because they had gone and played at Notre Dame. And I actually watched a stretch of it, and I thought they played well for, I'll just say, the first half. And then I just think the talent and all that stuff just sort of became a little much, which again, at Notre Dame. It was a
Yep.
spring game, I think. And so
No, they did that in the fall.
so there. So hence the hat. So I'm going to ask you, am I seeing this right? Like, did you play Indiana?
Yes,
Like the Indiana women's team, Division 1 Indiana women's team.
we did.
Like,
And for all things considered, a 5-0 result against a Power Five that hadn't conceded a goal at the time Um, I remember our captain, Andrea Wright, after the game said, "My sophomore year, we lost to Calvin 5-0. My senior year, we lost to IU 5-0. We can do this, ladies." And so um, that was kind of a point where we went and we challenged ourselves. I'll tell you, we had a tough time finding games this season. We
Uh-huh.
we had turned ourselves from the team that was a midweek win for people
People, yeah,
to
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 yeah,
maybe we're not able to do that anymore. So
yeah.
we had an opening,
That's huge. That makes
and
hard problems for you, but that's
yeah,
huge.
yeah, we had an opening, and Irwin reached out, and I said, "Yeah, let's do it. Why not?" And we made it an experience. We played in a legendary stadium.
Uh,
We
that
Yeah,
alone, I would have just been like, yeah, game's over. I'm good. I got to kick the ball around.
we had a VAR call. Like it was, we got
Really?
yeah, we
Are you?
experienced yeah
That's awesome.
we got VAR. Um, so it was a good experience. Uh, I think I would probably do it again. I would probably do a
Yeah,
one-off game. Um, it depends on how it
yeah,
fits with
yeah,
the rest of our schedule. Um, but it was an experience. That's for sure.
yeah. Did you walk off thinking? This is a great question. Did you walk off thinking like we are just miles and miles away from from a Division I team like Indiana, or did you come off and be like, we can compete?
I think the biggest thing that I took away was that the Power Fives
Yeah,
they're athletic. They're so athletic. I
yeah,
think that's the difference.
yeah.
Uh, I think if we have the same time as them, if we have the same extended
Mm-hmm.
preseason,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
where we're not 3-4 games in maybe, but we're 8-9 games. We've been
Yeah,
together for 2 months. We have a bit of more of an identity. I think
yeah,
it's a little bit different. Uh, but when I look at like some of the technical aspects of the soccer
yeah.
players that we put on the field versus them, uh, I mean, these were girls that were club teammates in the past
Yeah.
with some of the players that
Mm-hmm.
were on the field. And from a technical soccer point of view,
Yeah.
I think we matched up pretty well with a lot of those players.
Yeah.
I think the difference was some athleticism. I think
Yeah.
I think I probably walked away thinking, you know, maybe if that's a team that's at the bottom of a mid-major conference, we have a bit of a better chance to
Chance.
kind of
Yeah.
play a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
instead of just being in our end for aside
Yeah.
from a couple of counterattacks.
Yeah.
Um, but but that was the most noticeable difference was our most athletic players were average athletes for a Power
Yeah.
Five.
Yeah. 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 That's interesting. I don't think people appreciate that what you just said there at the Power Five. I'll just even throw in just look at the top 25. You know, they're in a level that I don't want to say many can compete just because they're attracting the best of the best of the best, and like you said, they're first and foremost these folks are probably just super great athletes, those unique specimens, right? And then
Yeah,
they have great soccer to boot, right? And sort of that's what the biggest difference. And the higher you go up the scale, both sides, right, men's and women's, the higher you go up the scale, the more it is, right? Because they're
yeah,
now competing for national team players and what
yeah.
have you. But that's only 25 of 200 and some odd schools. Like
Right.
you can go down levels and totally make it competitive
Oh,
games, right?
100%. I think that
Yeah,
the crossover there is a lot more than some might know just based on
yeah,
the division number. I mean,
yeah,
I go to my own college experience, being a Division 3 player, like
hmm
we won 3 spring games against Division One teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I still remember my second day of preseason as a college freshman. We played a local Division One team, and the coaches kind of like agreed, like, all right, it's going to be our starters versus your starters, second group, third
Yeah.
group. When we were up 2-1 in a preseason scrimmage, and we put our third group on, and their coach subs on their first group to take a
Yeah.
3-2 lead, because it's not a good look to drop
Yeah.
to the Division three school across the street. Yeah, that there's definitely programs out there that the best. I think the best Division three programs can compete 100% with some Division ones. It's same thing for Division two. You know, the
Two.
top
No,
division.
yeah, I don't want to disqualify Division two.
Yeah.
But I do think, right, like there's some baked in advantages, obviously, at the Division one level, that it's really hard to get a real apples to apples game, right? So you play Indiana, they've been going for like a month and a half, and you've only been going for 2-3 weeks, whatever it is, right? Like, and so you're not at that level yet because you're just sort of gearing up for conference, and they're flying, right?
Yeah.
Flying around. So things like that. And then same in the spring. But that's an interesting conversation. What was your biggest challenge? Was it the injuries that you alluded to, or?
I think this year the biggest challenge probably was, and we're really like forward thinking here at Trine. I think, we've got the Titan GPS, we got workload monitoring. We didn't deal with much in terms of like soft tissue injuries. Concussions added up for us, and not properly heading a soccer ball concussions, but I got headbutted in the back of the head, and I'm gonna miss 2 weeks because of a bad channel. Like we had that. We had just falling and hitting the turf the wrong way, and a concussion from that. We had one ankle injury. So it was the timing of the injuries. It was the nature of them. If we were pulling hamstrings and tearing quads, I would have been like that's on the coaching staff. That's on us, like not taking care of our players. But we had to face some injury challenges, and youth. I think just inexperience. We were just so heavy in terms of freshmen and sophomores that we're still growing. We're still growing, and the challenges that we gave those players in big moments, I think, are going to help us in the future. And adding some neck strengthening exercises to our summer workout packet is going to hopefully eliminate some of those concussions.
Did I see that right? You're graduating 4?
Yes. Well, no, technically we're graduating 3. One of them's coming back.
Nice.
Secret to not spill the beans.
That's okay. Totally get it.
Our conference opponents can worry about her when
can worry about which.
Later on. But we're graduating 3. One Riley, she came to us as a transfer after her freshman year, and then Andrea and Veronica, 2 mainstays from the 2019 team. So we'll definitely miss their leadership and what they brought in terms of being those veteran players. But we're returning a whole lot of important minutes to the group this coming fall. So
well, I was just looking at your roster, and it is young, right? Like that's the amount of freshmen that you have and sophomores that, again, I don't know who plays, who doesn't play, but it is most definitely freshman and sophomore heavy, right? Even your juniors don't look to be that many. in comparison to the other class. I might be wrong. I'm just doing
Yeah.
a quick swag.
No, I think this year we'll have more balance too
Mm-hmm.
across the
Yeah.
lineup between upperclassmen and underclassmen. Um, it'll be more of an experienced group when we step on the field each time, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. And like there's nothing that substitutes for that
No.
experience that you get with
Yeah.
players who, we'll have players who played in back-to-back conference finals.
Yeah.
Coming back for a senior season where they're really motivated. So
Yeah. Well, what's this? I forget who said it, but the best thing about a freshman is that they become sophomores, right? Like and that's true in any sport. I just think maturity, understanding, the nerves, whatever it is, confidence. All right, I got to ask this. You had three ties: Denison, Hope, and Albion, if I read it right. You have any thoughts on overtime changes? Like, is that something that would you? Let's just start. In any of those three games, did you walk off the field thinking that you lost points?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think in two of those games
Mm-hmm.
we didn't feel real good about the result.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's football, man. Like
Yeah.
that's what it is. Um, I think I do like the regular season ties. I
Mm-hmm.
think we play such a dense schedule
That's good. Yeah.
um, that I believe the study showed that a lot of the overtime games, almost 50% or it was 40 something percent of the overtime games, still resulted in a tie.
That's
So we were
yeah.
just making kids run around for an extra 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, there's the flip side of the argument. Use more substitutions, things like
Yeah.
that. Um, I I would say every coach is probably going to still revert to using their top players
Mm-hmm.
if we're playing in an overtime game.
Yeah.
Uh, so I like the idea, and I also like the idea of not being a golden goal scenario
Mm-hmm.
in the playoffs. I think giving a team an opportunity to chase a goal in overtime is part of the rules of the game, the laws of the
Mm-hmm.
game. So I like the idea that it's it's not really sudden death, so to speak, if
Mm-hmm.
we concede in extra time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think I was watching your interview with Messiah's coach, and he had the opposite take on it. And his was,
Mm-hmm.
the excitement of scoring that golden
Yeah.
goal,
Yeah.
and I'm right there with it. I scored a golden goal in college, and it was
Mm-hmm.
unbelievable experience. And um, I think it's pros and cons, right? It's to each their own. But I
Mm-hmm.
think if we're talking player health and safety, um, with all the sports science that's available to us, you know, I think it did benefit the the kids in the long run
Mm-hmm.
in terms of just eliminating some of that extra um, those extra 20 minutes on
Yeah.
some of the legs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but still, it's just part of the game, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
as coaches, we've got to adjust. But I do I do think it was a positive change, and it was some of those conversations that happened as we got into like some of our rack calls for regional rankings of, well,
Mm-hmm.
what's a good tie and what's a bad tie, and how
Yeah.
subjective do we want to be, and um, but yeah, it's again, I just kind of shake my head and say it's part of the game. It's meant to be played in 90 minutes in the regular season. So,
Yeah.
you go out there and you put a game plan to try and win it in 90. And that's what we've been putting together. So, um, that's just me kind of snowballing, I guess, a little bit
Yeah.
on that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Like I said, it depends on the day. Depends on the day. Like, am I in for it, against it? It's just I can never go back. I do love the emotion of it, right? But
Yeah,
yet, like I tell people, I mean, it was different back then. You just went all out throughout from day one, right? And the two a days one. Well, when I was playing, I remember walking into the, you start the season and you're like, your legs are just already,
Yeah, yeah. You're
right.
like
And
you're crawling to the finish line at that
yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. At that point, and you haven't even started like the
Yeah,
regular season, and then by the end of the season, you're like you're on crutches,
yeah,
like
yeah,
So, um, I assume you're done, right? Like you're done with the spring. And
yeah,
was there anything in particular that you were looking to accomplish for the spring that you can divulge?
yeah. We use our spring for individual player development.
Mm-hmm.
That's our goal. You know, when it comes to some of the tactical things in the
Mm-hmm.
spring, I kind of steer away from some of that because we have new players coming in the fall,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know exactly what we're going to look like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
based on the group we have coming in and how they add to the mix. So we don't do too much tactically. We try and reinforce some simple principles
Mm-hmm.
that we coach: speed of play,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, positional things of that nature. But we
Mm-hmm.
don't really establish anything new. Um, what we really focus on is the technical aspect, the individual technical development of the players, and we want to make it a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
We just play a ton in the spring. Our girls love it. It it's always nice to have a spring session when it's like a little bit colder and it might be later at night because you
Mm-hmm.
don't have the preferred time on the field. Uh, but when they know they're coming and they're going to get to just play without coach hampering
Yeah.
them, like small sided games all the time, 5v5, 77, 99. Like, let's just play, and we'll try and pick moments as coaches to
Mm-hmm.
coach within those small sided,
Yeah.
usually from an individual standpoint, usually pulling a girl off to the side
Yeah.
and teaching that way. Um, but we want to focus on the development of our players. And when they know they're coming and they're just going to get a ton of touches on the ball and they're going to
Mm-hmm.
get to be with their friends, and we put music on the sideline, and like
Nice.
we our girls want more
Mm-hmm.
is what we try and create. That
Yeah.
when you have a motivated group in the spring that wants to do more, it gets them excited for the fall, and hopefully it gets them motivated to do the work they need to do over the summer. Um, you know, so we typically only train tactics like the week that we're going to play our spring game, just to refresh some of our principles, and and then it's like, hey, we want to get so many touches on the ball for all of our players in the spring that they actually feel that they're growing and developing, and so we try and focus on those two elements mainly. It's
Yeah.
just like I said, the individual growth, the individual development, um, and through having fun playing through small
Yeah.
sided games.
Yeah.
You know, when there's one ball and 10 players on the field versus one ball and 22 players on the field, you're going to get a heck of a lot more touches, and
Yeah.
we're going to find those 4v4s and those 3v3s and those small areas and those small duels that are critical to the 11v11
Yeah.
focus. We're going to find those within our small sided play so that we can focus and teach in those moments.
Yeah. No soccer player thinks they're playing soccer, right or wrong, thinks they're playing soccer without the ball, right? And if you do it enough, they completely zone out because they're like, this isn't my idea of
Yeah,
playing soccer,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Just a couple more questions, and I'll let you get on with the day. What is your? It already looks like you are well. Forget next year. You already positioned yourself from a roster standpoint for what could be some couple years of some real success, right? If all things stay the same and what have you, right? So I got to ask, like, what does your recruiting class, your incoming recruiting class look like? Like, is it more of the same? Are you still?
Yeah, we've got a much more limited class in
Mm-hmm.
size as opposed to the really large classes that we've brought in the last 2 years. It's
Mm-hmm.
allowed us to be a little bit picky, a little bit specific in recruiting from, a talent
Mm-hmm.
perspective, positional perspective. We want good character individuals. So we've gotten to be a little bit picky in recruiting
Mm-hmm.
for our 2023 class, our 2024 class that we're rolling in. Um, but we don't need necessarily the numbers to reinforce
Mm-hmm.
the culture that we've built. When
Yeah.
we look towards really establishing the culture, um, bringing in players who aren't um, haven't had a different coach or haven't been part of the previous program, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's one voice, and this is kind of who we are. It's easier to kind of establish that culture, I think. Um, and that's we loved the players that we carried over from the
Mm-hmm.
previous coaching staff. Um, that's not to say anything negative about the previous program, as we like to say, um, but we really used recruiting to reinforce the mission,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's kind of sustaining itself from that aspect. So as we look to our recruiting classes, they're not going to be as large in numbers, but we believe we're going to have impactful players coming
Mm-hmm.
in as freshmen, um,
Yeah.
and transfers as well.
Yeah. How many players do you have coming in, if I may ask?
We at the moment we have 5 incoming freshmen,
Okay.
and we have a few transfers that will be here as well in the fall.
Can I
Um,
ask about obviously not my last couple of questions, but the transfers, are they like the 1 year transfers? Like, hey, I have a year left, and so I'm going to go to Trine, or are these legit transfers? I was someplace else my freshman year, and I'm not legit. That's a terrible word,
yeah,
but
we have a mix of both. We have
mm,
uh, we have one junior college transfer coming in.
mm-hmm,
We have a couple um, that went somewhere for their
mm-hmm.
freshman year, and it just for whatever reason
What didn't
wasn't what
work?
they
Yeah.
expected to be, and and we're actually um, hopefully going to add another in the next couple weeks.
That's me, right? Like, you got me coming in. All right, just do you have the last question? Do you have out any goals for the fall already outlined, or are you just does that? I mean, do you waiting for the team to get all together and then do whatever powwow sessions that you
I
do?
mean, yeah, our coaching staff definitely has our goals, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, I'm sure they're really similar to many of the other coaches that we're going to compete against. Um, so we have our goals as a staff, but we do like our team's goals to be player led.
Mm-hmm.
And so our captains will hold a team meeting in preseason where they come up as a group. Coach is not in the room,
Mm-hmm.
so they feel like it's their space and it's their
Mm-hmm.
their goals as a group.
Mm-hmm.
And they set those goals and they share them with the coaching staff. And then
Mm-hmm.
as coaches, it's our job to help guide them so that they're given all the tools that they need to be able to go out and achieve those goals. Last season, our goal was to win the MIAA, and we fell just shy of that. I don't expect that the girls are going to come back and have any different goal other than that.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would say is definitely our goals. I mean, long term, I would be lying to you if I didn't say I'm here trying to win a national championship.
Yeah.
That's what ultimately you want to compete for, right? I'm a competitor. I have been literally since I was born, probably.
Yeah.
Um, but there's steps that you have to hit along the way, and I think we're right there. The first and the easiest way to get into the national tournament is to win your conference, and so that's going to be our players' goal as we arrive in August, and hopefully that can be a springboard to some of the long-term success that we want to have here at Trine.
Like I mentioned before, I think, right, like it's almost like steps, right? Like staying atop the conference is like your first step, and then you keep success, failure, up,
Yep.
and then the next level becomes a regular participant in the NCAA's, whether at large or just because you have strength of schedule on your side and wins on your side. And then you keep testing that until that 1 year you just sort of make that leap, right? And
you hope, and you got to have luck on your side along the way.
There's so many crazy factors. Like
I'm not going to sit here and say we're 100% going to do that in the next 3. This game's too crazy for that to happen. But it's something that we're hoping to build towards, and we take that step and things go our way and we have success in the MIAA this year. Well, then we look and it's, hey, let's go win the first weekend tournament, that first 4-team tournament, and then we'll hopefully get back to it and maybe we can win another 4-team tournament. And it's steps along the way. And so I think we're in a really good spot. I'm really, really excited about the team that we have. I'm really, really excited about the recruits that we're bringing in, not only this year, but in the next couple of years. And it's just an exciting time for Trine soccer.
Yeah. So everyone has heard it here first. You're guaranteeing a national championship in 2023. Did I hear that correctly? I'm sorry. My audio is sort of going a little. I'm just kidding. That's not fair chalkboard motivational stuff for your.
You just gave everybody in there.
Sorry.
I'm gonna have to send an email to the coaches after this.
Yeah. No, I did not say. Yeah. No, that was a complete SimpleCoach fabrication right there. So, all right, Coach, this was awesome. This was fantastic. Do appreciate it. I will be following. Like it is. It's really. I love the process, the build process. Right. Like to me. There's so much that can be done, so much potential, and obviously so much impact that you have on student athletes. It's just fantastic, and I just love to hear hey, this. I think people think of college soccer as these, 3-month snippets of work and focus, and it's not. It's multi-year. It's extended. It's so much more than just getting together in August and being done in November, hopefully December. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So anyhow, thank you very much. Appreciate the time. Give your team my best, and I will definitely be following.
Yeah. Let's do it again sometime.
Oh, absolutely. That August, I'm going to ping you if you have time to do a season preview to see how things were going, to check in. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So, all right, Coach. Thank you. If you like this show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also find me on anti-social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks. This is a message from my Chief Marketing Officer. I think this keeps him happy.